Hello class, this is Grammar for ESL learners and this is your introduction. The first thing you need to know, who am I? I'm Tom Halford. I have a PhD in English Language and Literature. I received my PhD from the MUN campus in St. John's, and my supervisors were Larry Matthews and Deneen Farquharson. They were great. I'm a creative writer. I'm hoping to have a longer work published in the fall of 2018. I'm a teacher. I have some different teaching experiences that I'll tell you about in a second. And most importantly, I'm a dad and a husband. My wife is your coordinator, the ESL coordinator, Melissa Halford. And my kids are Douglas and Violet. Douglas is 2 and Violet is 4, soon to be 5. Where have I taught? I started teaching in Pyeongtaek, South Korea. For any South Korean students listening to this, I was teaching at a Hagwon, Avalon English, and that was an interesting experience. I think I learned a lot from it. If you're not from South Korea, basically I taught at a private school, which focused on helping younger students to learn English. From there, my wife and we moved to St. John's, Newfoundland. I started my PhD, and I was a teaching fellow there. I taught introductory English courses, and that was a great experience too. From there, we moved to Plattsburgh, New York, USA, and I taught at the State University of New York. And actually, I only taught one class there. I was in more of a administrative position. If you don't know what that means, I was the assistant director and writing specialist of the learning center there, and so I oversaw the writing tutors and I helped to train them. That was a great experience, and I met a lot of great students doing that and a lot of great coworkers. We moved from Plattsburgh, New York to here to Corner Brook, Newfoundland, and now I am teaching grammar classes, which are really quite interesting, to be honest with you. I hope I can make them interesting for you as well. So the focus of this class, it's very simple. It's grammar and vocabulary, but the catch is it's grammar and vocabulary for academic study. So my goal is to teach you the grammar that you need to move on and take undergraduate courses at the university level. That's the focus 100% for this class. Conversational grammar is also important, and we're going to do a little bit of that. And just in my opinion, I think Newfoundland English, you'll hear it when you're walking around Corner Brook. I think that has its own grammar and it's perfectly valid. It's just that our focus is standard English and grammar and vocabulary for the purposes of academic study. Academic language. Academic language attempts to be impersonal and objective. It's formal, and it uses evidence and support. So those are 3 things that I want you to keep in mind. I'm going to give you a good example of those 3 things in 1 second on the next slide when we go to it. But I just want to give you one quick tip. When you're starting out using academic language, my suggestion is that you avoid using personal pronouns. Once you get more comfortable using personal pronouns, then you can just use them at your own discretion. But as you're learning to write in academic language, I think you should avoid them. Here's an example of why. Okay, so if you and I are sitting around and talking and you say to me, I think it is a bad idea to drink too much coffee, that's perfectly fine, because in that setting your personal opinion is very important and I would listen to it. If you wrote that sentence in an academic essay, I would question your choice in terms of I would question your word choice, and I would question your lack of proof or evidence. Okay, here's an example of the same sentence or of a similar sentence in an academic style. Studies have shown that excessive coffee intake is bad for the heart. So you can see that we're moving from personal opinion to something that does attempt to be a little bit more objective in focusing on studies as opposed to an individual's thoughts. And we have our proof in showing that it is, we have our more specific proof in showing that it is bad for the heart as opposed to just being bad. And really, if you broke this down and looked at it more closely, you would see that these three things, attempting to be impersonal and objective, using formal language, and using evidence and support, are all clear distinctions between these two sentences. Okay, and let's move on. Just as a reminder, at the end of class I asked for a writing sample from you. You were to write one paragraph in an academic style, and the question was, what are some of the pros and cons of the education system in your country? Okay, so that's our first video, our first sort of video textbook that we're going to continue to develop throughout the semester. Thanks for listening, and I'll try to load up another video before too long.